Ladies and gentlemen, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Keeps. Listen up, guys. I get it. I know that oftentimes much of our identity is wrapped up in our hair, from how it feels after you get a fresh cut to the way it's perfectly styled before a night out on the town. And that's why when we get into our 20s and 30s and start noticing perhaps the first sign of hair loss, it can feel like panic time. But let's face it, no guy is ever ready to go bald. Thankfully now, there's Keeps, the simple and easy way to keep your hair. 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they are 35. The best way to prevent hair loss is to do something about it while you still have that hair left. Cool thing about Keeps, well, you can get that treatment from home. You used to have to go to the doctor's office to visit for your hair loss prescription. Now, thanks to Keeps, you can visit a doctor online and get hair loss medication delivered right to your home. They make it easy and deliver your medication every 3 months, so you can say goodbye to the pharmacy checkout line. And if you considered that doctor visit awkward, you don't really have to worry about it anymore. Keeps offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products that are out there. You may have tried them before, but you probably haven't tried them at the price being offered. Remember, prevention is key. Keeps treatments typically take between 4 to 6 months to see results, so it is important to act fast. The sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you are going to save. Find out why Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors, and more than 100,000 men trust Keeps for their hair loss prevention medication. Keeps treatments start at just $10 a month. Plus, for a limited time, you can get your first month for free. If you hear this or are hearing this and you think I'm speaking to you and you're ready to take action and prevent that hair loss, you need to go to keeps.com/clearedhot to receive your first month of treatment for free. That is Keeps, KEEPS.com/clearedhot. Don't wait until it's too late. Get after it while you still can. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by everyone's favorite sponsor. That's right, Manscaped. Now, Halloween is obviously right around the corner. And scaring people, scaring your friends specifically, hiding in bushes and jumping out at them, it's awesome. But scaring somebody with your bush? No, that's not awesome at all. Thankfully, our friends at Manscaped want to help you make your boys downstairs clean and best friends of their own. Manscaped is the #1 men's below-the-waist grooming and offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. If you want to craft the shaft, Manscaped is for you. All right, you might want to dress up as Chewbacca or Bigfoot or some big hairy bear, but it's what's under the costume that really matters. Don't be the hairy guy. Manscaped is forever changing the grooming game with their Perfect Package 3.0. Inside the Perfect Package, you will find their electric trimmer called the Lawnmower 3.0. This waterproof and skin-safe trimmer will reduce nicks to your pumpkins, to your twigs and berries, and you can also create less mess by trimming in the shower or using their Magic Mat disposable shaving mats. Yeah, shaving mats for your balls. Get into it, research it, dive deep. And of course, let's not forget about that crop preserver. It's an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. Who doesn't need that? Or if you ask yourself who does need that, everybody. If you have balls. You already put deodorant on your armpits. Why are you not putting deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? The Perfect Package 3.0 also includes anti-chafing performance boxer briefs that keep your package cool and smelling fresh all day. For on-the-go freshness, you'll love the Crop Reviver, which is a ball toner spray. There's no vocabulary to describe it. It has to be experienced to be believed. It's time to get clean and mean with this Perfect Package 3.0. 20% off and free shipping with the code CLEAREDHOT at manscaped.com. Stay sexy this Halloween. Your balls will thank you. Again, that's 20% off and free shipping with the code CLEAREDHOT at manscaped.com. That is 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the code ClearedHot. Trick or treat if you want to. Keep your balls neat either way. And that's it for the business side of the house. Let's talk about my guest today, episode number 150, Darren Babeau. Not spelled like it sounds. But Darin and I met, I'm going to say, probably coming up this year? I can't even remember, with 2020. He had me come out and speak at a gathering. There was many other speakers, and we have gotten to know each other before then and then much better afterwards. An interesting fellow, to say the least. He's a man of many talents. Started off in the Coast Guard. And I'm not going to say too much about the Coast Guard right now because he does a good job of unpacking it. They do more than I think a lot of people realize, which is a disservice, and hopefully this podcast will help educate people about what the Coast Guard does. He served in the Coast Guard as a special operator and then a private government contractor all over the world. He's conducted operations on the high seas and remote areas around the globe. Since then, he has made the transition into the civilian world and now runs and owns successful American manufacturing companies, most notably the National Chimney Natural Light Energy Systems, 9 factories, 300 employees. He's got experience from owning CrossFit facilities. He has done some public speaking. He has done mentorship, and he's an author. He wrote the book Back to Bulletproof, which I will link to in the show notes. An interesting man from a background, like I said, I don't think most people know about. And let's let Darin speak for himself. Episode number 150 with Darren Babeau. Enjoy.
Okay, got the red smoke. Gun run, north or south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. Get cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
Hey, stranger.
Oh, man. So the question is, how honest do we want to be with the listeners about this shit show that occurred last night? So I was in the studio till well after 11. We sat down yesterday for 2 hours and chatted about, I feel like we solved the political environment, the PC culture. I believe we reformed law enforcement and first responders in general.
I think we cured COVID.
Cured COVID for sure. I think we're most of the way there on cancer.
Yeah.
Fuck. So we sat down yesterday and, for the first time, I recorded the Q&A episode. Sit down. I have to sync stuff up. You have to match the audio and video. And I've learned all this stuff through trial and error, which, honestly, last night was trial and error for me too. But when you don't, the video cameras record slightly different than the audio software, so you get drift. So the mouth starts moving, and it detaches from the words a little bit. They start off great, and then 5 minutes in, you're like, huh? That doesn't look good. That guy's speaking Chichewa. His mouth is a little bit off. So I had to figure that one out. That was a software solution, and I was thinking about this last night. So I pulled the files over, and I was looking at the waveform, and it just didn't look right. So I hit the space bar, which starts it off so I could hear it, and I would say it sounded unintelligible, but it didn't even sound like English. It sounded like a piece of machine, like just this wow, wow, wow. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, okay, that's definitely not going to be the entire episode. Skipped forward, couldn't figure it out. Immediately pulled up our episode, which we had just finished because you sent me that picture of the cornbread.
And by the way,
You're welcome.
That was amazing.
I'm going there for lunch today with my kids. We'll get back to DeSoto Grill because we should talk about it because it's one of the number one questions that I get for people who visit Kalispell. A lot of people actually come through here, and I try to hit them up and tell them where to go. I always say DeSoto Grill. So I pulled up our episode, which it was, in my mind, I equate Joe Rogan's studio to the Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
Maybe I'm like a TIE fighter. I don't know. I'm not a Star Wars scholar. I'm more of a Harry Potter scholar.
I'll have to have Joe have me on his show so I can be the judge of that.
Well, I can't speak to his new studio.
Oh, okay.
It looks like a spaceship toaster.
Okay, never mind, Joe.
Yeah. And I actually have no idea if he listens to these. I think he might listen to one occasionally. That dude has got some demands on his time.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
So yeah, I think I have this high-speed setup, and then my heart just sank. I was like, oh my God. And thank God you're here today.
Yeah.
Because we can at least...
And you know where I was supposed to be, right?
We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about your illegal Uber driver / chauffeur because I was
Sam
curious.
was so disappointed.
I bet he was. We're going to talk about that. But then, so what am I trying to do? I'm not an electronics genius, so I'm like, okay, need to identify a problem. I checked the iMac that it recorded onto, the speakers. So it was first I got rid of the software, put it back on. That didn't fix it.
Right.
Is it recording properly? Yes, it is. Hook it up to my laptop. Okay. It's still making that same noise on my laptop. Start disconnecting things. I just put a Guinness kegerator in the studio because I'm sponsored by them. And by that, I mean I pay for every bit of it. I just enjoy their product.
Right. And I enjoyed the beer. It was good.
It was good.
Yeah. After the show.
So I thought, oh no, is it electronic disturbance from the kegerator? I'm trying to go in my head like, what did I change since the last time that I had somebody in the studio? Pull the Guinness kegerator out. Nope. Still making that noise. And then I just realized that this whole thing is relying upon electronics, which I know almost nothing about.
Yeah.
So I narrowed it down to the interface where the microphones come into. I have a USB cable that then goes into the computer, and I have to assume that something in there went wrong because the other box, it's that red box right there is the problem.
And after I was bragging about how all your shit looked super cool over there.
Oh, don't think for a second I didn't have that come back into my mind. And I don't know the solution because so the red box is the interface from the digital signal that comes from the microphones and it spits it to the recording software. The box on top of that is just the amplifier for the headset. So it has no function other than to spit out the noise that we're hearing.
Right.
So that should be fine. I think that's the problem.
Right. Should we test it?
I did.
Okay.
I tested it on my laptop. It recorded the same way. So now I'm using essentially the travel board as the interface between the two, and it's working well. So I was able to check.
Because I do fly out today.
I know. So the microphones are working. The video cameras, they had worked the entire time. I think it's that box. And now I'm thinking, though, do I have to order 2 of everything? Because I'm at a single point of failure, right? And we talked a bunch about business. I'm sure we will again. When you're looking at a business, you don't want single point of failure.
Right.
And I'm sitting here going, oh, shit. And these single point of failures, I don't understand them. When I bought that red box, I was actually doing a content project for Blackhawk, the gear manufacturer. And I was getting ready to have my first guest in the studio. And it was the day before. And I couldn't get the audio interface to work. So I'm begging their sound guy to come here. Like, hey, man, will you come check this out? He couldn't fix it either. So
that actually makes you feel better when it's the professional that can't fix it, you know?
Well, it was because he was not familiar with that exact piece of gear.
Right.
And but I'm sitting here realizing I have to add a ton to my workflow because your episode wasn't the only one that got nuked.
Ooh.
The one that was going to come out Monday. I had 3 ladies come in, all spouses from the special operations community. 2 of them had just started a foundation. So obviously I pulled up their file.
Oh, man.
Every microphone.
Do they live around here?
No. Colorado and Texas. And I might be able to try to pull the audio off of the video cameras, but one of the women was sitting there and the other one was here. And so that's why I use this audio from these mics and then you overlay it because it's so much better. So I think it's a loss.
That's a bummer.
It is. And then you know what, though? It's completely my fault.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here. I'm just like, God damn it, Focusrite or Scarlett, whatever the fuck the name of that box is. And then I realized I didn't test it before. Like, I need to write out an actual workflow. Yeah. How many times can you try to blame it on the gear?
The SOPs.
And so, but now, seriously, though, what do? Do I have to buy 2 of everything?
Right. Well, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have a backup. Just saying.
It wouldn't hurt. Wish I would have thought of that. And I need to write out it goes to show you that regardless of how awesome you think you are or your setup is good, it just takes one little aw shit.
Yeah, because I'm sure in your previous career you didn't have a backup plan when something was going to go wrong.
Well, I mean, I wish we didn't do anything like this in my previous career. But, I mean, it's completely my fault. I can blame it on the equipment if I wanted to. I could have tested and actually looked at the...
Right.
I did test to make sure it was recording. I paid no attention to what it actually looked like. And on second inspection, when I was looking at it last night, it was completely visibly different on the waveforms if you zoomed in enough.
Right.
So total shit show.
Well, I look at it, it's kind of positive. I get to be on your show twice. And the cool thing is no one gets to see the first one, which was
awesome.
Epic.
Like I said, we solved most of the world's problems.
Yeah. So
And
it was the best show ever.
And even if I can recover it, I'm going to put it into a digital vault that will release in 100 years.
100 years,
and I think the information will still be fine.
Yeah.
Fuck. I'm sorry that your Uber driver was upset.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't call him the Uber driver anymore. It's just Sam.
Yeah, it's Sam.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best throughout however long we sit here and talk to not say, remember when we were talking yesterday?
Yeah.
But yesterday you were describing how you were basically breaking the law with Uber because Sam, and in the Kalispell area, people, there's not a lot of Uber. There is Uber, but it's less than a half of a dozen, I think, at peak hours. And I've had a few people show up for episodes. They're like, hey, man, I travel all the time. I was going to just use Uber, and it's going to be about an hour. I'm like, I'll be right there. I'll pick you up.
Yeah. And that's kind of what happened with me. As you know, when at the hotel, I went to the first restaurant, which was, I think it was
Jazz.
Yeah. And I didn't realize it was 5 minutes away from the hotel.
Yeah.
But I waited 30 minutes for the Uber driver to show up.
It's in an odd location, actually.
It is.
It would be very close to the airport, but I think they would get better, probably walk up at least if they were somewhere closer to town. Like you have to be over there for a reason to drive.
Even though it's
past,
an easy walk, it's not a good walk.
No, not at all.
No. So anyway, so he brought me there, dropped me off, and there was no room because of COVID, their rules. So then I was like, oh shit, I realized how long it took me to get an Uber. So I got another Uber, but I knew like if he saw it was me, he would pick up, and he did, came back and got me. And I was like, hey, I don't know how this is going to work out in my next couple of days, but how about you and I work out a deal? So he's my Venmo friend.
He's your Venmo friend.
Yeah.
In the previous episode, we discussed on how I think most of the burden lies on him for deviating from the Uber policy.
Yeah.
Let's just say he's removing the middleman.
Right.
And now you guys are friends.
We're friends.
You're casual acquaintances / chauffeur.
Yeah, / chauffeur.
And you were going to check out Glacier National Park. I didn't actually look up at the sky too much today. Was it more clear?
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah. So yesterday, we very rarely get fires in the valley, but smoke all the time gets trapped down here. And actually, about a month ago, it was pretty bad. Not as bad as like Portland and Seattle. Or even my dad lives in Santa Cruz. He said it was raining ash and they didn't see the sun for like 3 or 4 days. It wasn't that bad, but it'll get in here because those mountains on the east and the west, it just high pressure over the top and it sandwiches.
So I just came back from San Diego, and I was expecting it to be the skies just to be shitty.
All the way down there?
Yeah, and the reason I thought so because when my wife was in town with me, Jonica, we went up to Temecula, and they were like, oh, we're not sure how the weather's going to be or how the clouds are going to be because of the smoke. And no, it was perfect. It was clear as normal, so...
Was it smoky at all in Temecula?
No, not at all.
I was going to say, it doesn't very rarely make it that far down south.
Yeah, we were concerned, but I mean, I'm not from San Diego. We just have a boat out there. But yeah, I was thinking, I was like, oh, this is going to suck.
Hashtag must be nice.
Yeah.
I'm not from San Diego. I just keep my yacht in a slip there. How much do you go out on your boat?
Before COVID?
Yeah.
Quite a bit. Yeah. So
But you live in Louisiana.
No, Indiana.
Indiana.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's
right?
an Anna.
Yeah, it's an Anna.
Like when people start talking about Afghanistan or Tajikistan, I'm like, it's just a stand.
Yeah,
dude.
it's a stand.
Yeah.
All the stands. Yeah, so we have a boat in San Diego, and we that's like our second home, for lack of a better word.
Well, you have no kids, though, which makes that travel easy.
And it gives us more money because we're not having to pay for 3 kids.
Are they expensive?
Kids or boats?
You actually might be at a net even. I assume I've never owned a boat. I'm never going to own a boat. I have a distaste
I think the
for
kids
the
are more
water.
expensive.
Yeah,
I share the boat with my business partner, so it's a really good it's a good deal.
But I bet when something breaks on the boat, it's not cheap.
It's not. Nothing's cheap on the boat.
I was going to say.
Shit breaks all the time.
And kids are expensive in the aggregate, but from day to day, they're not that bad. I bet you, like I said, if you were to tally the profit and loss, it might be pretty close. Yeah. What kind of boat is it?
It's a Gran Turismo GT49, but made by Beneteau, powerboat.
What do you use it for?
Just pleasure, just going out in the water. And
is it like an overnighter type thing?
Oh, yeah, you can sleep on it for days. It's got a generator on it. It's got 2 bedrooms or 2 staterooms, 2 heads, full galley.
What's the farthest you've ever gone with that thing? How far have you explored the space?
I've been to Catalina a couple times, went down to Mexico. I'd say the furthest would be just north of Catalina, up to like the buoys for LA.
That's not really far.
No, but it's but if you think about it, it's on a powerboat burning fuel, I can get up to Catalina in like 3 hours. But if it's rough, it's not like being in the military where you're stuck on a ship. You're like, I don't have to be out here. I just want to go and cruise around. So,
meaning you can actually turn the wheel instead of making a recommendation to the person on the Navy ship who has the wheel.
Yeah, left full rudder.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
So people come to visit Kalispell and they say, where should I eat? Now that you've eaten in a few places, thoughts on the DeSoto Grill. And for people who want to know, DESOTO. Don't fuck around. Go there. And thoughts on the cornbread.
I don't think I've ever had cornbread like that before.
The most I've ever had is 9 pieces.
She asked me if I wanted more. I was like, I don't think I can.
Do you not have a fridge in your hotel room?
You know what?
Do you not have a backpack?
It was,
Do you not have a satchel? Even a hobo has a satchel over his back.
It was more about for my health.
It's not good for you.
Yeah.
I am only aware of a few things that can make an item of food that's sweet, and all of them
and then
involve sugar.
She brought honey with it too. And I was
Honey
like,
butter.
I was like, I don't think I first I was like, I just took a bite of it and I was like, what's this stuff for? She goes, oh, you put it on it. I go, really? And I was like, who does that? She goes, oh, everyone does. I'm like,
You did try it, right?
Yeah, of course.
Would you describe it as similar to birthday cake?
It's
It's good, right?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yes. So for people who want to visit Kalispell, DeSoto Grill for food, and I feel like now that I've said this, I don't have to respond to as many people when they say, "Hey, we're passing through. Where should I eat?"
Yeah, and if you want a good bar, I went to Scotty's. I guess 2 nights ago.
Yes.
Yeah, because originally I went to Montana Club.
Mm-hmm.
Was the second steakhouse.
It's kind of a chain restaurant.
Yeah, and it wasn't where I wanted to be because they only had 2 seats at the bar, and the lady gave me some bullshit story. But anyway, then I got recommended by Sam, my excellent new friend.
Consigliere.
Yes. And so he brought me to Scotty's, and yeah, it was like a normal bar. And
Did he have a drink with you? Because that would be the best Uber driver ever.
No, but I think he wanted me to invite him in.
Yeah, you're starting to flirt with some rules there. But like I said, he's not really an Uber driver anymore.
He's my Venmo driver.
He's not even your Venmo driver. He's an acquaintance of yours. I don't want you you're not going to get in trouble. Scotty might be totally screwed.
Yeah.
And I say that because if anybody at Uber listens to this, there's probably only a few people named Scotty who work Uber in Kalispell.
And I won't describe him because that would really narrow it down.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you didn't get to see Glacier.
That's all right.
It's a hidden gem.
Yeah.
I haven't spent as much time in there as I probably should given its proximity to where I live, but I have heard multiple people say who have been to Yellowstone, which is farther south near Bozeman. Well, not really near Bozeman, but most people go to Bozeman or fly in there and drive south, that it's damn near as good, but a fraction of the traffic. And now Montana people are screaming into their car or their iPhone, "You motherfucker, stop telling people."
Yeah, I mean, from my hotel room, I'm pretty sure I can kind of get a glimpse of.
You can see a couple of the western and the southern facing mountains, but that's just the opening of it.
Yeah, and that was pretty. So I mean, I got pictures.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I cheated you a little bit out of that one, and you actually have. There's a road there which I haven't been on.
The Sun Road.
Road to the Sun. I think it's called.
Sun. That's where Sam and I were going to go this morning.
Were you really?
Yeah. So he can he could bring me to the top in 4 hours and back.
You know what we should have done?
Done this up there.
No, that wasn't going to be possible.
Let's move all of this here.
We should have given him one of our phones and just let him film the entire drive and still have him go do it, and then you could have taken it with you.
Yes.
I've heard amazing things about that, and that road is actually only open for, I think, a few months out of the year.
Right. He said it's going to close pretty soon.
Yeah, well, the snow maintenance is the issue because once it starts dumping, like it's a very narrow road with some pretty sheer drop-offs. I've actually heard some horror stories from people who are afraid of heights that are having panic attacks in the car, like head on the back of the headrest, like, no, I'm not going to look outside. I'm not going to look outside.
Yeah. I can tell you, I think he was pretty disappointed. I think he hasn't been up there in a while. So I think that this was going to be a tourist day for him too.
If only he could just take a day off and go do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
Go do it, Scotty. God damn it. I cheated you on that. I'm sorry.
Sam.
Scotty was the bar. Sam is the driver.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just trying to confuse people.
Sam Skull, if you really want to find him.
I'm trying to confuse people. So Scotty, the driver, which isn't his name, doesn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
But I digress. So here we are
it's
again.
All good, man.
Yeah. Round two, which, I was thinking about our conversation. There's always more stuff that I would love to talk about. And actually, there's value in talking about stuff a second time because you come at it from a different angle.
Right.
Like one thing I didn't ask you yesterday, why did you actually decide to write a book? As I think our initial interaction, you sent me your book before I came and spoke in Dallas.
No, it was after you did.
Okay, it was tied to that though.
Yes.
Why did you decide to write it in the first place?
Well, I think what really made me make the final decision, I kind of got put in a box by some people in a mixed group, which is a business group that I'm in, and I'd talked about it for a couple of years. So every time I would go and do any public speaking, people would say, there's a lot of guys that have books out there. People say, "Oh, Darren, you got a really cool story. I didn't know that about the Coast Guard." Or, "That's cool that you implemented these things into the business world. That's cool that you do this." So everyone was asking me, "You should write a book. You should write a book." And I didn't really think anything of it, but I would tell people, "I'm writing a book," but I never put any effort into it. And then
Kind of like your statement to get them to shut up.
Yeah,
Be like,
exactly.
yeah, I'm chapter 5 right now. It's
I was not everyday GSDing, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward to I was in my business group where we like mentor other businesses. Anyway, Mark Stoner, who's a friend of mine, said, he goes, hey, when are you going to write your book? And he had a book out. And I said, I'm going to probably do it next year. He goes, well, why don't you just do it now? And I was like, okay. He goes, well, we have a meeting in spring. Why don't you get it done by then? He's like, that's enough time. He goes, it gives you a year.
Dude's putting you in a pressure cooker.
Yeah, put me in a box. And I don't like to be put in a box.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll get it done by the end of the year, December 31st. So I worked with a co-writer, ghostwriter, collaborator.
How does that work? Because I was actually going to ask you about the mechanics.
So it works.
I get the same thing. I get the question about writing a book, and to be honest with you, I don't think I'm ever going to, because anything that I would want to write about, I feel like it's been written about. There's a few SEAL authors. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Yeah. You guys got some movies and TV shows.
Yeah,
too.
and some of the issues that I bounce up against with is I know some of these guys, and their nonfiction books are misplaced.
Yeah.
They should be pulled over into the fiction aisle.
Right.
But the leadership stuff that I speak about generally, because I get asked about a book when it comes to speaking often too, because an organization or a speaking organization or an individual business will reach out and they'll say, hey, do you have anything that you want to give away? Or they actually have asked me before when they're going back. Well, they're going back and forth in the booking process, as in booking me to speak them, not writing a book. And they'll say, oh, well, do you have anything written? Almost as if it's for some of them a requirement to have something published before they'll allow you to stand up there.
Right.
Like if I hadn't written down the things I was going to talk about and published it, they're like, oh, it's not valid.
Right.
But if you have a book, oh, you're a published author, welcome to our organization.
Right.
But I don't think I can do it, man. I don't think I can do it.
I think it's a lot easier than you think it is. And it's not that it's hard. I think it has to do with a lot who you do it with. The guy I worked with was Robert Conlon out of Maine, and he was actually in the Navy years ago. So it was interesting because the way he described it to me is, we're going to sit down, we're going to write stuff together, you're going to tell me stories, meaning me telling him stories, and then he's going to fact check everything. He's going to go to the Coast Guard Historical Society. He's going to go talk to other people and make sure my stories aren't full of shit. Because a lot of the stuff that I talked about, people just don't know about in the Coast Guard, right? Or people don't know about the Coast Guard, that they do that. People in the Coast Guard know about it. But so then he explained it to me as it's a big construction site. We're going to put everything on the site, and then he's going to properly put it together so it makes sense under my direction of saying, hey, this is how I want the format to be. And then you go week by week, and then when you're all done, you have a finished copy.
So how much time did you spend in front of a laptop actually hammering out words, sentences, paragraphs?
Not that much.
Which I don't, and I'm not trying to like blow the curtain back on anything.
No, it's not a secret.
And I'd imagine a lot of it is verbal, it's spoken back and forth, dictation.
A lot of recording.
Okay.
Tons of recording. Him asking me questions, him sending me like 30 questions, then me writing all the answers out, or him sending me 30 questions, say, hey, we're going to talk about this on Tuesday. You can write these answers to me if you want, or you can write notes so then we can talk about it.
So he's basically taking your information and it's channeling through him, which terminates in what would it be, a manuscript? No, that's for TV or production.
Yeah, that's for TV. So it's basically, in the way I thought, he's a ghostwriter, but he basically said he's not the ghostwriter. He collaborated with me, but in all, to me, I think he was the ghostwriter because his name's not on the book. But I give him credit because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to tell my story, 100%. Or I guess I could have hired someone else, but he just was a good fit for me.
Did the book have the impact that you wanted it to? Or did you even have any idea what it was going to be like once you released that thing into the wild?
No, not at all. I had a goal. My goal was hopefully people read this and it can change the way they operate their daily life, whether they're a business person or a veteran or just a regular everyday Joe just trying to make changes in their life. I talk about fitness. I talk about myself growing up playing hockey in the Adirondacks where I'm from, and then going into the military, then going into contracting. And then I talk about some operational stuff, and everything I talk about in the book is all public information that you can Google it and find it, or there's resources to look it up.
Yeah, it's a smart way to do it for sure.
Because there was some stuff I wanted to talk about that I have friends that are still in. Mm-hmm. And one of my good friends now is working at the Pentagon, and he was like, nah, you can't talk about that. And
Did you put it through the review process?
No, interesting enough, I wanted the Coast Guard to approve it. Excuse me. I wanted the Coast Guard to approve it, And the only way they would do that is if I gave them all the information ahead of time before I even put the book together.
Really?
Yeah, it made no sense to me.
Yeah, that seems backwards.
Yeah, and then basically as I write the book, because it's their public relations office, and I said, well, what value am I going to get by having them do this? So I said, I'm better off to talk to some people that are high up in the military still and say, hey, is this, I don't like to say classified, but is this
Sensitive?
Yes, it's sensitive. Is this public information that you can find? And then a couple people said, nope, I wouldn't talk about that. So I got some direction on that. And then when I did the information with Robert, I'll call him the ghostwriter just for everyone out there listening.
Yeah.
So then he would go to the historian office, Coast Guard history office, and look up all the information, find some stuff. And he actually came back sometimes and said, yeah, that's not exactly how they have it. And so I said, well, you can call this guy. He was on my team. That's exactly the way it fucking went down. And then he got, verification. He said, all right, let's just leave that out and maybe put it this way. So it still sounds good. And then it reflects on what the record has it on. Which it didn't take away from any of my stories. So.
Yeah, and it probably meets the middle ground between.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a difference between a record keeping office and people who are actually on, let's say, an objective.
Yeah.
The AAR,
sure.
let's just say AAR, after action review.
Yeah.
Not always every detail.
Right. And it's
in there.
100%. And it's funny because I at first that kind of pissed me off because I was like, that's not how it happened. But then I was like, Joe Blow doesn't really give a shit. The whole point of the book is to throw some of these stories in there and then talk about how these things have changed my life and made me better as a civilian. And I think I think I've got a lot of good feedback. So
we should probably say the name of the book.
No, that's a secret.
Since we've been talking about it. I'll link to it in the show notes as well. But
it's called Back to Bulletproof, A Warrior's Tactical Guide to Success. So I called it Back to Bulletproof for the specific purpose of getting back to your best self. So whatever you do in life, whether you're anything, you need to either do the best you can or get back to where you used to be. So let's say you were in the military, which you were, and you were a top performer, which you probably were, and then all of a sudden you came out of the military and you started to get in a rut for whatever reason. And
which happens more often than not, regardless of performance level in the military.
Absolutely. So I want that individual to read the book and go, you know what the fuck am I doing in my life? This guy did it. This guy was in the Coast Guard. Wow, I can do this.
Yeah.
Or someone reads that was never in the military that says, my God, why don't I get up a half hour earlier? Why don't I eat healthier? Why don't I go work out? Why don't I stop complaining about the bullshit job that I hate and do what I really want to do? Because I can make the changes I want to make. So that's what the book's about. Back to Bulletproof.
Yes. Have you, the veteran community, trying to figure out the best way to say or ask this.
There's no bad questions, right?
There's not any bad questions.
We can just cut it out because I'll be like, shut
no,
the fuck
we're not
up.
editing anything out.
There'll be no editing.
I can't speak for the veteran community as a whole.
Right.
And oftentimes I get asked about the military or the veteran community. And I try to always say, listen, I can only speak about my experiences in the SEAL community, which were geographically limited to the commands that I was at. So I can't actually speak about the community.
Right.
At a precise and broad level at the same time, but I can tell you about my experiences and my own personal experiences. One, I struggled getting out of the military for what I would describe as a lack of purpose, going from something that I found to be purposeful to realizing I had not put enough effort into thinking about the next step. But I see the veteran.
It's very common.
Yeah. And even in the SEAL community. So again, I can't talk about the veteran community. When I say that, I mean the SEAL community or the people that I serve with. It's very interesting what happens to them when they get out. There is a small percentage that I would say, call it, and I'm making these numbers up, 20% seamless. They had thought about it well before they had gotten out. They're going to things like the Honor Foundation. They're going to Elite Meet. And I have I've never been to either of those things, but I've heard guys talking about those. So I'm not trying to say that's the steps people have to take, but I'm saying those are steps that some people have taken from the community. They get set up and it's almost like they're able to apply the gas after they get out. They're just gone and they're on a rocket ship.
But then the other 80%.
Well, I'd even cut the other 80%. So I'll take another, it's like a bell curve, right? We'll take the other 20 on the bottom side who didn't give it any thought. Their identity is completely wrapped up around the pin that they used to wear on their chest.
Right.
And they get out and they auger in, bellied up to a bar.
Yep.
And then I'll say the other 60% is that's where I look and I feel like I fell into that 60%, and it was almost like I was adrift a little bit.
Right.
I felt like this sense of purpose. I loved going into work, probably because the task conditions and standards were all laid out for me. This is what we're going to do.
Structure.
Here's your 18-month schedule.
Yeah.
You will do this for 2 weeks, 3 days off, 2 weeks, and it's just like, wow. Yeah. Thought process, 0. Right. Enjoyment level and all of those training evolutions, maximal.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And then I get out, and I mean, I don't know if I've ever suffered bouts of depression, but I was certainly not.
You might have, and you don't call it. You didn't think it as depression. It could be.
I was not my normal self. I can tell you.
By
that
the way,
much.
I'm not a fucking doctor.
Yeah, I am. So we're okay.
Okay, perfect. No, I think it's important when people get out of the military. They have to understand. I'm trying to think of. I used a reference in my book. If you're a cook, right, which is an important job in the military because you're feeding all these people. So when you get out of the military, do you want to be a cook, right? And let's say you do want to be a cook. Do you go in and apply for a job and say, yeah, I serve 350 people on a daily basis? Or do you go in there and you explain all these other things that you did and the leadership that you had and the conditions that you had to do these operations in? It wasn't you just scrambled eggs in the morning. There's other stuff you had to do. So you have to be able to write your resume, but also, and not bullshit it. You have to be able to write what you actually did, but put it in terms that the civilian world understands. And I think what happens is because when we leave the military, I talked about it yesterday with you.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. There's different jobs in the military. And then when I was in the Coast Guard, when I got in the Dsf program, the Deployable Specialized Forces, you're just a small unit. I reference like you guys in the SEALs, but just to be clear, we're not Navy SEALs. But you have such a small community, you want to take care of those people in it. And so when I see people leave this community and, they don't have to leave this community and just be a police officer, even though a police officer is an amazing job, but maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to open your own business. Maybe you want to be a cook. Maybe you want to change your whole career path. But the leadership and the discipline that you learned in these jobs while you were in the military should be able to translate into the civilian world. You just have to know how to do that and be confident that you can do that. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people, they leave this such a structured atmosphere that all of a sudden they're like, no one's telling them what to do. So like you said, they belly up at a bar, or they're like, you know what, I don't have to do anything. What am I going to do? Or
they don't know what to do. And I see, and again,
adrift.
And I can only speak for the community that I come from. And I've felt an essence of this in and of myself, if I'm being totally honest. You are like, well, why aren't people hitting me up for a job? Don't they know that I used to be a Navy SEAL?
Right.
Like, do they not know who I think I am?
Right.
Which is the apt way to describe it.
Yeah.
It's not who they think you are. It's like, why don't people understand who I think I am?
Yeah.
Because the reality is you're not shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You were awesome in the military. You were doing a really cool specialized job.
Yeah.
But don't expect people to, I actually think you described it really well. Don't expect people to understand what you learned and how it can apply to the job going forward. Because if you look at on paper, a SEAL, we have to be able to shoot, move, and communicate.
Right.
If you look at that as the core competency, that doesn't translate incredibly well to a Fortune 500 leadership position.
Communication does. That's about it.
Communication. But if you can talk about what it takes to be able to shoot, move, and communicate, because inside of that, you're a part of a team. So the communication, the leadership, the understanding of the ability to learn new systems, the ability to go to disaggregate locations and new environments. And, that's the stuff that needs to be on your resume.
Right.
Not just Navy SEAL.
Yeah, exactly.
And it has to be written. Esquire is how I put it on mine. I'm not sure what Esquire means, though.
The TV show, maybe. The SEAL Team 6, is that the show? Or maybe it was SEALs?
It's, no, wait, there's been 6, which was on History Channel.
Okay.
And then there is CBS, which is just purely SEAL Team.
Yeah, full disclosure, I've never watched any of them.
Yeah, I haven't either. I talk shit about both.
Yeah.
And I actually worked for the show 6 as a technical advisor for 2 years.
And then you were like, fuck. Yeah, one of my...
It was interesting. We'll leave it at that.
One of my best friends, Jovan Bielski, who was on my team, on Team 401, he got out, went back to college, got his degree, and he's a police officer in Massachusetts. But that's what he wanted to do. Mm. So the job translated perfectly for him, but it's also what he wanted to do. So he had a plan. 6 P's, proper planning prevents piss poor performance, right? That's a lot of tongue twister. But
it's a lot of tongue twister, but it'd be tough to find a more accurate statement that
real.
applies broadly.
Yeah, and I talk about that in the book, and obviously everyday GSD has two main things because
Stands for get shit done.
Yeah, very simply put. And you don't need to have a master's degree to figure it out. And it's what level of getting shit done does that mean to you? Do you want to get up in the morning and, get on social media for an hour, then have breakfast, then go to work? Maybe. I don't know if that's what getting shit done for you is, then have a plan and do it. Or do you want to go to the gym? Or do you want to eat healthier?
Yeah.
You just have to have structure and a plan and then stick with that plan and then do it slowly, gradually more and more and more. And eventually you're getting a lot more shit done. And then you're a productive fucking citizen.
Easier said than done.
It is.
I feel that creep in pretty much everything you described often. It's not like you wake up or you read the book and you're like, yes, I have it nailed.
I think when you read the book, you want to run through a wall and get excited, but then all of a sudden...
But that fades.
It fades.
Motivation.
I think it fades day 2 for a lot of people.
It does.
It's like the New Year's resolution. Go to the gym, man.
That's
January 5th, the place is fucking empty again.
There's nothing you can read or structure you can set in place that's not going to require hard work.
Right. But if you look at discipline as not what you can't do, but what you can do, if you change your mentality of, I can't eat the chocolate cake instead of saying,
but I can eat the carrot cake. Is this what you're saying?
You can eat the small or version. You can eat the cake over at Dsf.
You can eat a mini bite that comes in a 1x1 square.
Still full from dinner last night.
It's good.
Yeah.
I'll mail you some more of that.
Let's just put it this way. When I went to the gym this morning, it was not productive.
Hey, if you broke a sweat.
Yeah.
No, I feel for the guys who get out and they get to that place where they were adrift, because I think I lived there for about a year, and it wasn't until I wasn't relying on it, but what I needed looking backwards was other people. They presented me with some ideas that get my mind turning again.
Right.
In a perspective of I was able to find a purpose. I was able to do that by realizing that I could still, I guess, have an impact. Maybe that might be what I was struggling with the most, is I didn't feel like I could do anything that was impactful. Then I found fundraising through the wingsuit jump I did in 2015, which was giving money directly to the families of people still deploying. I was like, oh shit. I know
you raised like $1 million, right?
No.
That's a different one?
Let's be very clear.
Oh.
I tried to raise $1 million. You know what's really hard?
I think I put in my book that you raised $1 million. Uh-oh.
That's fine.
The book's not real then.
No. Trying to raise money is tough in a world of endless GoFundMes.
Yeah.
So I heard somebody say donor fatigue one time, and I tell you what, it could not be more true. I ended up doing multiple segments on national media, like three-letter, ABC, CBS, all that stuff.
Like the real deal.
The real deal. That's how I actually met Joe, through Tate Fletcher, as he took me on there and we talked about the fundraising. And you have about 2 weeks, I think, where you can capture people's attention when you do a fundraiser, and then you are smashed under the avalanche of other GoFundMes. I mean, I'm on social media like everybody else is. You fire up Facebook, scroll through it, and you're going to see, I think I saw 3 GoFundMes today. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is, if you think that raising money is easy, regardless of how virtuous your organization you're trying to raise money for, stand by.
And even a GoFundMe, I get what they're doing, but they also take a % of the money.
I believe it's 3% scrape.
Yeah, which I just wish that people could donate directly to a cause. Yeah. But a lot of times, because of social media, the GoFundMe is right in their face, like, yeah, $5, $10, and they may end up making a lot of money. So I get it. Like I'll leave here, go back to Indiana. I get in late tonight, but I have a Monday a golf tournament, and I'm not a golfer, by the way, but it's for the Heroes Club. It's a charity event, and that's to support police officers and first responders in Hamilton County, the county that I reside in, to help them if they happen to die in a line of duty. So it helps offset the cost and gives insurance to the family. And then so that's Monday, which is a holiday, Indigenous Day, Columbus Day.
That's right, it is.
Yes. And then
do we celebrate that day, or what are we supposed to do with that now?
I think you don't celebrate it. People don't. I don't think so. I don't think it's a national holiday. I think it's depends what you want to do.
I'm at a place where I don't know what you are supposed to do or what you're supposed to say. It's a very weird place to be in.
I have no fucking idea.
Yeah. I remember seeing that pop up.
Because on my phone it says Indigenous Day and also Columbus Day. I'm like,
you have an Apple, don't you? iPhone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the same thing.
And it won't stop vibrating in my pocket. I should shut it off.
Go ahead. I don't care.
Yeah.
Or let it, Move it over to the right place. Let it tickle and entertain you. Do whatever you want to do. People can't see below the table.
Yeah.
I should do a podcast one day with just no pants on.
That's too bad. I got some cool American flag Vans on too, but you can't see them. But anyway, that's Monday, and then I go on the 22nd, which I think is either Thursday or is it the following Thursday?
11 days from.
I don't even know what today is.
Today is the 9th.
So the following Thursday, I'm doing an event at Anthony's Chop House, which is a steakhouse. We're doing it at 3 Up, which is called Sweep Away Cancer, to raise money for people that are affected with cancer, and we directly give the money to them, pay their mortgage or pay their rent.
Do you collect it yourself as that organization?
Yeah. So what we do is we get the money, put it in it's a 501(c)(3). We put the money in a bank, and then people apply for aid, and then we give them a certain amount of aid, depends what it is. So I started that with a few guys in my industry, in the venting, the chimney industry. Tommy Nelms is the guy who originally started it. He used to be a fireman, and they did something like that in the fire department. So it was his idea, and then myself, Mark Stoner, Hope, and a few other people, Chuck Roydhouse, and there's a handful of people that got involved. We're all volunteers. But my point is, that's 2 fundraisers in 2 weeks to raise money for 2 totally different causes. Fundraising. It does get tiring.
It's not as easy as people think. If you can find an organization or a benevolent donor that has the funds to do it, and they write you a huge check, more power to you. Because it was, I remember watching the volume of when I first launched it. It was unbelievable. And I don't want to speak negatively of GoFundMe, but people should definitely be aware they do take a scrape. That's their business model. But they also make it very easy. If you don't have a 501, is it 3C or C3?
I've got a 501(c).
Okay, whichever one it might be.
Yeah.
I hope
I said that right.
I think it might be C3.
It might be.
Yeah, the tax entity. If you don't have one of those, which it takes a while to set one of
I'm
those
not
up.
an accountant.
Yeah, but GoFundMe makes it easy to set it up absent that. And I remember watching it, dude, the first 2 weeks, because I think I put the GoFundMe alert on my phone. Ding, 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 ding. And it's small donations, which are awesome because the goal is to get as many as possible.
Right.
And you see it hit the peak. Ding, 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 ding. And I don't know if I've been as unsuccessful at anything else as I have been at raising money for a ridiculously awesome cause. I just don't know how you keep the spotlight on it.
And people want to donate money. They really do. But I think, like you said, there's just so many avenues or so many places to donate money.
Yeah.
If I just donated, $100 or $5 or $500 to, the Navy SEAL Foundation, and then all of a sudden 5 minutes later I get hit with, Sweep Away Cancer. I'm like, not that I don't want to give money to Sweep Away Cancer, but I can only give so much money away. Yeah. So then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, so I just gave money to the Navy SEAL Foundation, but I'm just going to silence the Sweep Away Cancer one, which is like...
Which is a totally legitimate cause. Yeah. Or you see people... Yeah. And then, Santa Cruz is another example. People that crushed, well, not necessarily Santa Cruz, but the areas around Santa Cruz, crushed by wildfires. People have lost their houses. Yeah. People have been...
livelihoods.
And what am I supposed to do? Yeah. Like, I have bills also. I totally get it. So when I was raising money, I understood both sides of it. All I can tell people is pack a lunch.
Yeah.
Even if you are, trying to rescue puppies or fill in the blank, something that you feel would be broad and inclusive of everybody.
Right.
Stand by.
I think as the open public, what they should do is if you feel like you want to donate money, look at the organization you want to donate and have kind of one cause or 2 causes. Just stick with those. And then my wife loves animals. So do I. So she would donate every single penny to save the puppies. Right. Yep. She protested no puppy mills. She's done all that stuff. So if it was up to her, she would donate all the money to this. But then again, she wants to help the orphans, and then she wants to help the people that have cancer, and then she wants to help veterans. So you have to pick a cause and then, stick with it and make sure you learn about that cause.
I would almost say dive deep on the cause that speaks to you the most. And that doesn't mean ignore the other ones, but I think you'll have the most impact if you dive deep on one instead of going shallow on 10.
Right. So
it kind of sucks to say, because I'm not saying that you shouldn't support the other ones, but
oh yeah, me neither.
You only have so much time and specifically resources when essentially what you're doing fundraising is putting your hand out and saying.
And if you don't have the money to donate to help a cause, obviously sometimes you can just volunteer and be the person trying to collect the money.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunities out there. There's a lot of good causes. Do your homework though.
It was an interesting time in my life when I was doing the fundraising, and I'm glad that I did, because it took me out of that place where I felt adrift. And I think I needed just kind of like a jump, on a car. I was a little bit stagnant.
Right.
Like, just, okay, we're going to be all right. And I started just trying to figure out the skills that I had, the lessons that I had learned. What can I do going forward? And
Didn't you fly for like a mile?
18.25. A mile is Bush League. All right, that's some JV shit. Obviously, you guys don't learn how to skydive in the Coast Guard.
No.
Okay. No, I was in a wingsuit. So, I mean, my forward speed, I think the max speed at altitude coming out of the aircraft was over 200 miles an hour forward.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it decreased. I mean, the air density is thicker as you get lower. I had less of a tailwind, so it was slowing down. But you can get those suits going well over 100 miles an hour.
Nice. Are you good at driving boats?
I actually can drive. I can drive a boat.
I was going to say they didn't teach you that.
Probably not.
I'm just kidding.
Well, Zodiac. I can drive the shit out of a 55 horsepower motor on a Zodiac.
Yeah.
I can flip one of those things. Like, I could put a clinic on
like
that.
nobody's business.
Oh my God. So I was at a West Coast team, and we would do this. SEAL community is obviously rooted in maritime.
Yeah.
And the predecessor to the SEAL community was the UDT, the underwater demolition teams, and they did a lot of stuff in the surf.
Yeah.
Carabiner your stuff into the boat when you're in the surf zone. Otherwise, what you get to do is called an online search with every member of the command on a Friday, looking for rubber weapons or radios. It's all a great time.
Yeah.
Lovely pieces of paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can flip a Zodiac like nobody's business.
Nice.
Your type of boat, though? No, I'm not touching that.
No.
No, not interested at all.
But 18 miles. Wow, that's fucking wild.
It was kind of wild.
Yeah.
The whole thing was wild. I was up there in Davis, California for a week, and the actual jump itself was on the 5th anniversary of my mom passing from cancer. And I was kind of having a conversation with my mom as I was flying through the air, and just thinking about a lot of the guys that I had worked with, and a lot of them, not a lot of them, but enough of them are not around.
Right.
It was weird. It was kind of a weird headspace. I thought I didn't know what I was going to think about, and that's what I ended up.
Because you're just up there in your own head. That's it.
In your own head, and you hear the rush of the wind and the of the oxygen mask. That's all you have to enjoy.
So how high are you?
I exited the plane at 36,500 feet.
Oh.
Yeah. Does anybody in the Coast Guard, is there a jump requirement at all for anybody in the Coast Guard?
No, unless there is that I'm not aware of now. For sure, when I was in, no.
It would be a skill they could look at. I mean, you could surge one of your teams forward to a vessel that is.
So we would fast rope out of helicopters.
What if it's out of range of a helicopter?
Typically, what happens is a helicopter is on the Navy ship or the Coast Guard ship, and they get close enough, and then we go from the Navy ship onto the helicopter, and then go to the target vessel.
Okay, but in my situation, all of those things are not inside of rotary wing distance. So all you have is fixed wing. What do you do then?
I'll call the commandant of the Coast Guard and let him know we got a new plan, man.
I mean, there's a...
This is former Petty Officer Bibeau, sir. Do you remember me?
The PJs.
Yes.
The National Guard guys. Those guys are actually, they do real world jumping. I actually know I taught pararescue jumpers, or the end of the...
The Air Force has pararescue.
Yeah, they're Air Force guys.
Yeah.
I taught at the end of their, they were through their selection process, and we were basically doing some refinement stuff with them in the skydiving world. A buddy of mine, Triple S, and I were running that. And dude, the National Guard does real world boat rescue and medical. They'll jump in, but they're well over, like, we're talking international waters, probably well past the distance, but they do some gnarly ass jumping.
Yeah.
Low level, inclement weather, get some.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it might be a good skill for you guys to have. I don't know.
I'll talk to someone. Yeah, one of my buddies, Eric Berry, I went to high school with, he was pararescue, and I think he did like 24 years. He went in
It's a long stretch.
Yeah, and he went in I'd say like 93 or something. So, yeah.
I was thinking about the Coast Guard yesterday, again, after we talked.
After we did an amazing...
Well, you talked a lot about your experience in the Coast Guard.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people don't know very much about it, like what the role of it even is. To include myself, I still don't know a lot about, and I know it's obviously one of the armed services, but I never worked directly with anybody in the Coast Guard when I was in. I mean, obviously would see the helicopters. We were up in Kodiak.
Right.
We would see or the vessels, you would see them, but never once worked with them. And I think that most people, and I don't say this in a negative way whatsoever.
I've heard it all, no offense.
No, and that's not against you, but I think most people almost equate the Coast Guard with Baywatch. Helicopters and boats very, very near the coast is what I'm saying. I don't think they realize the nature and extent of how far the Coast Guard actually spreads out. So
I don't think I did either when I went in.
But you do now.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we, I mean, define for me the role of the Coast Guard and how wide it actually the tentacles of the Coast Guard are.
I think if anyone in the Coast Guard's listening to this, so they're going to they're going to say I'm missing something. But basically, the Coast Guard has, I think it's about 40,000+ people, which I think we said this yesterday. That's about 10% of what the Navy has. Navy has about 400,000.
Yeah, somewhere between 400,000 to 500,000, I think.
Yeah, plus or minus. And then, so they do search and rescue. They do maritime law enforcement. They do aids to navigation, which is correcting all the buoys. They have icebreakers that will break channels in different parts of the ocean to make sure commerce can get through. Obviously, law enforcement on small boats, safety for security all along the coast. And then there's the Dsf program, which is Deployable Specialized Forces. They changed that name, but back in 1981, I think, is when it started. And those are teams. One of the teams I was on was a lead at, and we do counter narcotics. And now, since 9/11, obviously we're talking years ago, you have MSRT, which is Marine Safety Response Team. And then you have the rate now is ME, which is Maritime Enforcement. When I was a bosun mate, and I just did that job. Excuse me. So we do counterterrorism and counter narcotics. So each of the special operations units has a specific job that they do. So that's the Dsf program. That's the part that I really enjoyed in the Coast Guard. And then you have the search and rescue, which is the small boat stations, and then the helicopter units, the aviation. You mentioned Kodiak. Kodiak has, I think, one of the largest aviation units in the Coast Guard. And obviously they're out there.
San Diego's got a pretty big one too.
San
Just on the
Diego
other
does.
side of the bay from North Island.
Yes.
Those choppers are.
Yep.
And what's amazing is you'll see those suckers running out to that bird.
Yeah.
It's
The response time's amazing.
That's what I was
Coast
going to say.
Guard.
They're like, you see them sometimes. I'll be driving by and you'd see them running, and that sucker is off the ground
In no time.
in less time than I think. I think they might be skipping, like, you know, they're just doing it through memory and then maybe checking the checklist as they're already
Yeah.
in flight because they are ripping off the ground.
I can tell you when I did search and rescue, I was running the 41s, which is 41-foot boat. So you'd be sound asleep and the SAR alarm would go off, which is search and rescue alarm.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a watchstander that's, got the phone go, hey, I'm in distress. So they hit the SAR alarm, we jump out of our racks, run down, get the boat going, turn everything on, engineer gets the engine going. And all that happens within like 3 minutes max.
It's crazy.
And
It sounds like a
that's-
firehouse where guys are dead asleep
Yeah.
and then there are turnouts
Yeah.
and they're out of the
Yeah.
vehicle.
And if you're the search and rescue team that's like on watch, you're still allowed to sleep,
Yeah.
but you have to be ready.
Yeah.
So, and same thing with and again, I was not in aviation, so I can't really speak on them, but I can tell you I've worked with them off of 270s and 378s, Coast Guard cutters back in the day. So they deploy them off of it, and the response time is absolutely amazing. And these guys are amazing pilots.
Oh, I was going to say the weather that they're willing to fly
Yeah.
into. I mean, they basically they have one helicopter for the pilot and then one for their balls.
Yeah.
So they fly in pairs. I mean, dude. Well, people aren't calling search and rescue because it's a sunny day. They're like, "Hello, search and rescue. I wanted to tell you the sunset is amazing right now.
Yeah.
We're having martinis and shrimp scampi." And they're like, "We're burning to death."
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when I commercial fished in Alaska years ago, when I finished playing hockey, I was up there, and people think that I joined the Coast Guard because of what I saw in the Coast Guard in Kodiak. And the truth is, I never saw any of the helicopters. I never saw anything.
Yeah, because you were on a good boat.
Yeah, because my boat didn't sink. I wasn't. The storms didn't take us. Because you can be on a good boat, but man, Mother Nature will fuck you up.
Can you imagine? Every time I watch Deadliest Catch,
And that's real shit. I mean, obviously it's TV.
if
but
it's on TV, there's an essence of entertainment to it. But they can only. I mean, the waves that are coming over the vessel.
That's real.
Are coming over the vessel.
That's true.
Can you imagine that being the way you go?
No.
We did, when we were up in Kodiak, so the cold weather facility up there, Dry Suit Appreciation Day. I'm sure you've heard of this.
Yes.
Or the rewarming drill, I think is what they call it now because it's a kinder, gentler world. Surprisingly, the evolution, identical.
Yeah. They just renamed something.
Yeah.
Oh, no, everything's good. Get in the fucking water.
I actually think they improved it because I think they put the guys in all of their equipment as if you would have an accidental submersion.
Right.
So you have to figure out roll in the snow.
Right.
Which people wouldn't think about, but it sucks the moisture out of it. Get out of the clothes, structure, shelter, not a structure. Actually, I guess you could build a structure if you want to. Pack a lunch for that. Whittle a cabin.
Right.
No, it's get into your tent, rewarm yourself. How are you going to do all that stuff? But we went in one day to the Kodiak facility, and it was simply running shoes.
Shutting this off. Sorry.
Go for it. It was simply running shoes, a pair of shorts, and a life jacket. It's like, what actual evolution are we going to do? And then we drove around in a 10-pack van, nice Ford white, Econoline 10-pack van.
Yeah.
Pulled up to the side of a beach, and they said, the time will begin when the last person goes into the water, completely submerges their head, and then sits there with the water at your neck, and that's it. And I remember a couple people going, excuse me? What are we doing here? And then and some people were pretty aggressive about it. They're like, whoa, let's do this. And then there were other people who were just kind of taking their time. So some people got 7-8 minutes of exposure. That was one
gung-ho guy got cold.
But you want to talk about an eye-opener?
Yeah.
It was incredibly painful for probably 45 seconds to a minute because of the temperature of the water. Then it didn't hurt that bad. And then you started shivering. Then you stopped shivering.
Right.
And then the worst part of that was actually getting out of the water. And it felt like there was somebody with
razor blades.
Oh, or like a like a little brush, but instead of bristles, it was just needles and just jabbing it over every portion of your body.
Yeah.
And every time I watch The Deadliest Catch or any show about Alaska, you see those waves. All I can think of how miserable that would be to get swept over. I mean, even if a boat, one of those boats that's dropping those lines, I wonder if they even have time to mark the location, but turn around in time to find the person before they were done.
Right.
Not the way to go.
I did ice rescue for a little while.
Ice rescue?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And I can tell you, so we were doing this training evolution, and because the Coast Guard's theory or their motto on ice, being on the ice is no ice is safe. So you shouldn't be on the ice.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. But obviously there's ice fishermen. So we were in Lake Champlain, which is a lake in between Vermont and New York, and it borders the Canadian border and all the way down to New York. It goes all the way through St. Lawrence and into the Hudson. And so the lake freezes. There's parts that get really thick ice. So I think it was not Dateline, 2020 wanted to do a little episode on ice rescue, on how to survive in it, right? And my first answer is just don't go fucking on the ice, right?
Yeah.
Don't go in the cold water. But so we put our little outfits on, and I put clothes over my my wetsuit, and I'm doing this demonstration. So we actually take a chainsaw, we cut out the ice so I can fall through that ice. So
this is exactly how they do the rewarming drill now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I cut out the ice, right, with it was Jeff Belden and a couple other people. And so the guy that's the main guy on the show, I can't remember his name, and it's years ago. So I jump in the water, and he goes, how's it doing? I go, it's fucking freezing, right? And I go, because there was water going between my suit. Yeah, and I told him, I go, it feels like razor blades going down my back, right? And he goes, oh, okay, what else? And I was like, you coming in or what? Like, I'm supposed to rescue you. And he goes, okay, no. And so they had a little tent for him to be in, and we're just like, we don't.
Out there.
We're just out there.
In it.
Yeah, so I get out of the water, and now they're going to film him do it. And he has like 2 suits on. He's like bundled up. He jumps in the water, and the first thing he says, he goes, it feels like razor blades going down my back.
Oh,
like,
come on.
Oh, come on, man. Are you kidding me?
Plagiarism.
Yes, I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, so I was not impressed with that. But yeah, cold water sucks, man.
What kind of search and rescue calls did you guys, was there a
For
theme?
me, I was at a small boat station,
Okay.
so it's basically small boats in distress or someone lost in the water. Yeah.
I'm going to guess somebody lost in the water. The odds are probably not good for recovery.
So typically it turns into search and rescue to search and recovery. Unfortunately. Yeah. Unfortunately, we've saved a lot of people, but unfortunately we've recovered a lot. When I did search and rescue, SAR is what they call it.
Is a lot of that based on the individual gets exhausted and essentially they just shut down?
Hypothermia, man.
Yeah.
It's real. First the extremities and then the rest of the body.
Talk to me about your pipeline into the Coast Guard. Like you said, you grew up playing hockey in the Northeast, which,
Yep.
I mean, I think if you don't play hockey in the Northeast, don't you get a citation?
Yeah, you get a ticket.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
get pulled over. Like, it's not really about how fast you're going. I didn't see any hockey
Where's your
equipment in the
hockey
back.
equipment?
Yeah. Step out of the car, sir.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Adirondacks, a small town called Plattsburgh, New York, south of Montreal and like 200 miles plus or minus north of Albany.
Where is that in relationship to Rochester?
So Rochester's more west.
Okay, I've been to
Yeah.
Rochester. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, it's still cold there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm literally trying to think.
So
of
do you know where Montreal is?
Yes.
If you went directly south for like maybe 45 minutes.
Gotcha.
And then if you know where Whiteface is, the mountain
I do not.
where like Lake Placid was, 1980 Olympics were there, about 45 minutes from there as well. So it's
Okay.
and it's right on the water. So I grew up there playing hockey, played competitive hockey since I was 2 years old, and went to college for a little bit, played hockey, played a little bit of juniors, then went out to California, played a little more hockey, and then kind of stopped playing hockey.
Were you in a pipeline? Were you pursuing the professional career path?
I was trying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Harder than it looks.
No, I mean, so you go from where you lived. Is
Yeah.
there feeder organizations like AAA, AA?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you play juniors, junior majors, or if you're just a rock star out of college, you can get drafted. But that didn't happen with me. But
what held you back?
I think probably I didn't give it as much effort as I probably should have. I think I thought, because for real, I always was, fortunately I come from a hockey family, so I didn't have to put as much effort into it because I was naturally playing. And
It's a razor blade that cuts both ways.
yeah, so I'd score a bunch of goals and I'd be like, fuck it. Yeah. And
Do you guys not know how big of a deal I am? Did everybody see those goals?
And then as you continue to get older, you play more competitive, and those people have worked harder than you. And then next thing you know, you're like, fuck, man. Yeah, when I did tryouts in California for a junior major team, it was interesting because the first shift of the game, I scored a goal like in probably like 9 seconds, 10 seconds. I was a center, got the puck, went up and scored. And I was like, fucking guys. And I'm in California.
Did everybody see that?
Yeah. And then that was the last goal I got. And, then I went to Alaska.
It's a strong opener, though.
Yes, it was a strong opener. I knew people were up there like writing notes. They're like, who's this guy? And then all of a sudden, there I was in Alaska, commercial fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I left Alaska, and I went in the delayed entry program for the Coast Guard, which is DEP. And basically that was just because there was a longer line to get into the Coast Guard at the time. So I feel like it was about 8 months I waited, but don't quote me on that. My parents are watching this. They're like, it was 12 months, Darren.
Well, 12 is the max, I believe.
Oh, well then good. I hope
for the delay. I went through it as well.
Okay.
And so I could graduate high school because I brought the Navy recruiter home one day, my junior year, and we sat at the dinner table, and I said, "Hey, Mom and Dad, I have a piece of paper that I'm going to sign, but also
you need to sign it."
Yeah, they were awesome. They did.
Yeah.
I don't know if they signed it that day. I think we had a little chat.
Yeah.
But they did sign it.
But you knew you wanted to be a Navy SEAL
since I was about 11.
Yeah. So I didn't even know anything about the Coast Guard. I didn't know anything about really the military.
I don't think most people do, to be honest. And I actually think I was thinking about our conversation last night as I was contemplating taking a fucking fire axe to these electronics.
I'm glad you didn't, because I'm here again today.
Yeah.
Round
I
two.
just don't think it's a disservice to the Coast Guard. I think they do much, much more than people realize.
Oh, absolutely. And if you read my book, get my book, I talk about a lot of things that the Coast Guard does, and a lot of that is information that I actually even had to look up, or
which is crazy,
Robert Conlon,
considering you were a service member in the Coast Guard.
Yeah, and I talk about a lot of statistics that the Coast Guard does. Like Hurricane Katrina. When we talk about drugs, the Coast Guard seizes more drugs than all of the other agencies together. And when you think about the DEA being the Drug Enforcement Administration, that should be the number one, even though
You'd think so.
You would think, and if you calculate them all together on an annual basis, the Coast Guard seizes more than they do, all of them together. And people don't even know about it. I think we mentioned it yesterday, because of YouTube and social media, people are seeing more about the Coast Guard, specifically the guy who
they're seeing it. Well,
jumped on
I
the
almost
submarine.
called him an idiot who jumped on the submarine.
Yeah.
What I'm going to say is his actions were idiotic, although they appeared to be brave.
Right.
The risk assessment for that particular evolution, not great.
Right.
And there's also better solutions that probably wouldn't trend as well, though, on YouTube.
Right.
Like I get it.
And those
don't do it.
And those guys are trained, extensively on what they're doing. I used to do that, but it's interesting when you see someone in the public see that and go, "Oh, I didn't know the Coast Guard did that." But then they think that's the regular Coast Guard. But then I tell them, did you look at the guy's uniform? He's all in camo and he's all kitted up.
What color camo was he wearing?
I believe he was just wearing the regular green. What is it? The checkered, not checkered.
The digital, probably AOR2 is the green checkered.
Yeah.
So
why not dark blue?
No, I was going to say, are you aware that the Navy went to blue camouflage uniforms for people who work on vessels? If you fall off the boat, I think that camo works really well. I'm not sure exactly what the thought process was there.
Yeah.
Because the little individual who works inside of the boat that nobody could ever see, regardless of the sensor or platform.
Right.
Why does they have to have camo on that matches with the ocean if you fall in?
Well, and it's funny because when I was on the teams, we wore dark blue.
Yeah.
And we weren't wearing camo. We were just wearing just dark blue.
I actually, in my mind, for whatever reason, associate that with the Coast Guard uniform.
Yeah, but ours were more the fatigues
Okay.
as opposed to
The short sleeve.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we did that because most of our operations were in the middle of the night going after like target vessels or a suspect individual. But anyway, my point is about this guy. So people would say to me, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's crazy. This guy from the Coast Guard, he was on this ship." And I'm like, "No, that's a special operations unit."
Yeah.
Because the way you could tell by what he was wearing. But the Coast Guard has the search and rescue guys. So when I was doing the Dsf program, we weren't on Coast Guard boats. We were on Navy boats, U.S. Navy boats, Dutch Navy boats, and British Navy boats, because we use those as platforms to get into waters near certain countries.
Yeah.
So then we could do the operations. So it's almost like a little loophole how the Coast Guard can do these things.
And for people who, if you have a little bit of a refined eye or knowledge, every military branch has like the Marine Corps has their MAR pattern, and maybe they've moved away from it. I'm dated when it comes to that. But there's AOR 1 and AOR 2 in the SEAL community, digital and desert and green.
Right.
And then there's multicam, and then there's other versions. And if you know what you're looking at, you can say, oh, I see what I'm like. There's those little tells that you don't pick up on unless you know what you're looking for.
And I think when this guy did this submarine, semi-submersible YouTube action.
Hatch knock.
Yeah.
We'll call it the hatch.
Open the boat, open the hatch. I forget what he said, something like that. But I think a lot of people all of a sudden started talking about the Coast Guard more. And I don't know, I think Donald Trump, the current president, said the Coast Guard is becoming a brand, which is just so fucking ironic because the Coast Guard's been doing this shit for years.
How long has the Coast Guard been around?
1790.
That's a pretty long time.
Yeah. And don't ask me my general orders.
Oh, I don't know them either.
And it's like, fuck, is it 1790? Yeah, 1790. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So they were under the Revenue Service at one point, and then Department of Transportation, now Homeland Security, and they fall under the Department of Defense during a time of war if they're doing actions in those territories.
So they don't fall under the DOD at all times?
No.
Okay, see, I didn't know that either.
Homeland Security. And
interesting.
So at the beginning of, right after 9/11, they started, was Operation Noble Eagle, I believe it was called.
I can't keep up with the acronyms.
Me neither.
Question for you.
Yes.
Do you happen to know where they come from? Because I get asked that question too. Is there
Acronyms?
like Noble Eagle, the, campaign names. Is there a random generator?
Geez, I have no idea.
Neptune spear, Thor's mace. Like there's and they all sound kind of awesome. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah. Geez, I have no idea. That's something to look at because
I don't know either.
Because you know how they name like a hurricane or a hurricane.
Alphabetically, right?
Yeah. And then, but I don't think it's generated like automatically. I think it's alphabetical, but someone gets named it, like whoever,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I think that's someoone's job.
I
could be wrong.
On the hurricanes, I'm not sure, but for the military, they seem so random. I'm just curious if there's a box that spits out these things. Because
some of them
Noble Eagle, like God, what about like mediocre eagle?
Yeah,
like partially noble eagle, lazy eagle,
Operation Saving Liberty.
They're all good.
That was real.
I know. That's what I'm saying. They're all good.
Yeah. Because I was part of Operation Saving Liberty in New York after 9/11 happened. My team went up there right away. And
I never even heard of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's so many things people haven't heard about, right?
Yeah.
Just like I'm sure there's operations that you guys did in the SEAL community that the public has no idea about.
Well, yeah, but
unless you guys.
But Noble Liberty, like to me, that sounds like something that is going to be large. Like we had objective names, but so Operation Enduring Freedom was originally Afghanistan. Operation Iraqi Freedom was obviously Iraq, but inside of that there are objectives.
Right.
And we would go, you would kind of go down a theme, like you'd do bands or vehicles or fill in the blank. But that stuff is those don't get briefed outside of the actual squadron itself. Right. So nobody would recognize that. But I don't think there's been any maybe. I don't know.
And I'm not sure where the names come from. That's something good to look at.
Yeah, I'm curious. And I also would like to apply for that job. I could come up with some amazing ones. Yeah.
That was an operation called Operation Black Hole.
That made it through?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, so I was on this operation. It was supposedly I shouldn't say supposedly because it was, but drugs were being brought into the U.S. on a cruise ship, but not by just like tourists buying some, a little bit of weed or coke in Jamaica on their little cruise. What happened was the crew, it was this operation that was coming from Georgia, and then the crew.
State or country?
State.
Okay.
So this tourist travel agency was a fake travel agency, and they would send people on this cruise ship, and there was employees on the cruise ship. So we worked with, that was a joint interagency task force unit we were on out of Miami, and we worked with the DEA, Customs, and it was before ICE. So they were Customs and Immigration, I think, 2 different ones. Don't quote me on that. And so we basically boarded a cruise ship, and the cruise ship knew, the captain knew that that he was briefed like the night before. So they were supposed to pull into the port of Miami, at whatever, like 5:30 in the morning, and we boarded the boat at 03:30 because they stayed out on a Dolphin and basically hung out there.
I'm assuming the Dolphin is a buoy.
It's a big piece of concrete that you can attach the boat to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a mooring station, essentially.
Station. Yeah, but
outside of the port.
Yeah, so like for big boats. And if I'm saying that wrong, fact check me, whatever. Fuck off. It's been a while.
Perfect.
Yeah. So anyway, so we boarded this boat and we went room to room for hours, and every guest had to stay in there. Imagine if you were a guest on that boat, how pissed you'd be. You're like, I'm missing my flight, missing everything.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because there's a bazillion people on that boat that have nothing to do with what's going on. And literally we were going room through room. We had our mask on. There was a bunch of us. We had dogs and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember knocking on, because we would knock and then open the door, and this guy was closing the door, and we're like, you don't have to flush your weed down the toilet. That's not what we're here for, bro.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't know I couldn't have it. He had like
you kind of did, but it's
like
still,
you sure did. And you're not in trouble.
How much did you guys find?
I think it was 6 kilos of cocaine, which is not at all what we were looking for.
I was going to say that's that's a small amount.
No, it's a super small amount for what.
There's a lot of cascading effects for the other guests on the boat.
Yeah, and
6 kilos.
I should know that. I know my team, and there was some a couple pounds of weed, but I don't know if that was all part of that might have been just an individual bringing it on. But what happens was it ended up stopping the operation because it was enough for the DEA and Customs to actually arrest the chain of people. Because in the Coast Guard, all we do is detain people.
I was going to ask you that because you were talking about the maritime enforcement. The Coast Guard, I'm assuming there's a way you could do this, but I assume not everybody is deputized.
That's correct.
Okay.
So as a lead-up member, which was what I was, you're a federal law enforcement officer, but you also fall under regulations that are specific to what the job is.
So you do have arrest authorities there?
You do, but I think...
Did you have to go to FLETC?
Yeah. No, not at all.
Which is the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center.
Sorry, yeah. No, but I think what happens is the only way the Coast Guard can arrest you is if it goes through the chain of command and the OIC or, information comes down from Washington and says, yeah, you can arrest this guy. What we would normally do is detain him, handcuff him or zip tie him, and then we'd hand him over to other law enforcement agencies.
At what point would they be Mirandized?
Not with us.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're detaining them.
Okay. And I'm asking that. I don't know that.
And that's how it was when I did it. So there's probably some high up Coast Guard guy that loves you and watches this. He's like, that's not true.
Well, I know at some point they have to get Mirandized, but I don't know where in that chain of custody that occurs.
I know there was a couple articles that made the Coast Guard look bad because they were talking about these basically unsafe conditions for these detainees that were basically locked up at sea for months on end. And so what it was is so I detain you, right? And you're on a ship and we detain you, put you on the Navy ship. We're going to feed you for however long we have you, but we're going to go through the Panama Canal. We're going to go through the Caribbean. Then we're going to drop you off in Jacksonville, Florida. But while we're doing that, it's going to take a minute. We're also going to do other operations while we're down there. So you might be out at sea with us for 2 months or 3 months. And
just in the brig?
So a lot of times you're in a helo hangar and you're just zip tied to one of the pad eyes on a little cable, and you given a little blanket.
For a few months.
Yeah, but again, that was an article that I think didn't show the real light of what happens all the time. Obviously, we try to get them off the ship as fast as possible, but operationally speaking, sometimes you can't.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. That's gnarly.
So if we detain 8 people from a suspect smuggling boat and we seize all the cocaine, we're going to transport them and the cocaine to other authorities.
What do they do with the cocaine when you turn it over?
The question everyone asks me.
Well,
first we
does it burn?
First, we all take our cut.
Of course. Yeah. It's a 10% scrape, right?
Just 1 kilo here and 1 kilo here.
I mean, what do they do with it? Do they dilute it with water?
Sometimes we dispose of it at sea. Depends on how small the bus is.
Literally cut open, dump into water.
Yeah, so you have a little, when I did it, we had this like bucket and there's a water hose and then you have gloves on and a mask. Supposed to, and then you cut the kilos open. Well, you cut the bale open, take all the keys out, then you cut the keys and put it in it, and then it dilutes and then goes back into the ocean.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, and I think that only happens, and I could be wrong. I think that only happens when operationally it doesn't make sense to bring that amount of drugs back to the U.S. So on my big drug bus, that was 9.5 tons of cocaine, 9.2. Excuse me, I was exaggerating there. I was talking like a Navy SEAL.
Sure. Exaggeration is part of it. And stellar hair.
I killed bin Laden.
I know 7 guys who did.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's wild. Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so if it's a lot of drugs and operationally it makes sense to bring the detainees and the cocaine back to the U.S., we would bring it to Jacksonville, Florida, and offload it into a warehouse. And then we transfer it over to either the FBI or the DEA. We count it in front of them. They count it. If the numbers match, we all sign it.
Chain of custody is complete.
Yep. And if the numbers don't match, we count it again. And if they don't match, you count them again until you can agree that the number.
And then there's an investigation.
Yep. And then there's an investigation. And then little Billy from the Coast Guard is no longer around.
I'm sure that's never happened more than half a dozen times.
Yeah.
What do you guys do if you find cash?
I never found any cash. So I know we looked for cash. So a lot of times the cash is being brought back from the U.S. To said countries, right?
You're interdicting it before the cash transaction is done.
So like in the Miami River, for example, they're going to be unloading mattresses and bicycles that are going to be, they're kind of used in the U.S., but they're going to be used in a less developed country. And so a lot of times they smuggle the cash back on boats like that.
Okay.
I've searched for cash. I never found any.
I ask from a perspective of what do they do with it? I bet you it goes into an organization's coffers somewhere.
I mean, it has to probably sit around for a hot minute until the actual, I guess the people responsible for it have been prosecuted or not, or if maybe there's a certain amount of time that has to be claimed. But I mean, who's going to claim millions of dollars when they know it was drug money?
Yeah, I feel like you might owe taxes.
Yeah.
Or perhaps be in the spotlight and be like, oh, that's my $5 million. Can I have that back?
That's my money. Why don't you come on over here into America and we'll give it to you?
Yeah. I think the volume of stuff that they send over, though, I know nothing about the drug trade, but if I were looking at their business model, if you flood it with enough, that stuff starts becoming a round off air. I'm like, whatever, just keep that few $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you talk about how large the ocean is and how small the amount of people that are doing what I did are trying to stop the drugs from coming in the country. I wouldn't say it's a losing battle, but it's not a winning battle.
What are your thoughts on the war on drugs?
I think this is a whole nother show.
Fire away.
I think when we would seize a bunch of cocaine, it's very rewarding. But I think there's so much.
You mean to the individuals involved in the seizure?
On the team.
Yep.
Yeah, because you've been training, and now all of a sudden the operation that you've been waiting to do, or if it's a random operation that you didn't know you're going to do, the mission happens and you're actually on this Navy ship and they're like, hey, there's a target vessel right here. You guys are in the area. You're like, yeah, right on. Because like I think I mentioned this yesterday. You have so much downtime. So when it is go time, I mean, you're fucking excited because you've been sitting around like eating on a Navy ship, and we would just work out and train. We'd train their I think VSS team, their boarding team.
VBSS, Visit, Board, Search, and Seizure.
Thank you. So we would train those guys, and a lot of them were mostly new guys. But but we didn't. The only time they would work with us is if we needed help carrying bales of cocaine.
Yeah.
But they do a good job, I'm sure. I just don't know much about them.
I don't know a ton either.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the jobs of the SEAL community is also VBSS. So if we are forward deployed, I would imagine that job would go there. But I don't know. I don't actually know. They need to have some ability, I would imagine, in the moment to be able to do that. But I don't know exactly what the limitations or their
capabilities,
capabilities or what they're authorized to do.
Yeah. So the difference with the Coast Guard is because we're not the Department of Defense and we're Department of Homeland Security, we have different operating standards, or I should say procedures that we can do.
Such as?
So we're allowed to go out and detain someone, and the Navy can't, because the Navy, potentially it could be So we have a Department of Defense unit in an area that really there's not a war. So the Homeland Security can be there. So what happens is...
Oh, they start bumping up against like Patsy Comitatus?
That's exactly what it is. So what happens is the Coast Guard flies the ensign on the Navy ship, and now that Navy ship is a sortie for the Coast Guard, and that platform falls under the Coast Guard command.
I don't have a fucking clue about anything you just said. What's the ensign?
It's our flag.
Okay.
Coast Guard ensign. So we fly that up the...
I was hoping you were talking about an 01.
An 01. we fly the ensign up. Yeah.
Who's the junior ensign on the boat? Like, get your harness on.
I'm up here. You're late for watch.
You'll determine rapidly that I have almost no knowledge of the traditional Navy.
Yeah.
Spent 14 days on a boat in 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Total.
Yeah, I think I spent on Navy boats probably maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Pass. Hard pass.
Yeah.
Hardest of passes.
I was on vacation with my wife in the Caribbean, and there was a guy that was on the beach with his girlfriend, and I could hear him talking. He's like, I've got 18 months sea time. You know what that means? He goes, I was on the ocean for 18 months. Never saw land. I'm like,
bullshit.
Bullshit. That's amazing. What ship are you on?
Yeah.
And my wife, Jonica, she's an amazing human. And she was like, are you going to say anything? I was like, no, not a fucking chance.
Don't bother.
Not a chance.
So I don't think you're going to skirt around the question. What are your thoughts on the war on drugs? As somebody who participated at a pretty intimate level in the interdiction.
I think we're doing the best we can, and I don't think it's enough. I think it's Is it
a battle that we could win?
I think no.
I agree.
I don't think so at all unless we change what we're doing as a country in the country. And I don't have the answers, but the amount of people that are using illegal drugs in the country. It
doesn't seem to be decreasing.
It's not decreasing. I think since COVID, I just read this, and I don't know if this is a fact or if this is Facebook news, fake book news. I think drug addiction went up like 25%. It's people going into rehabs.
That actually doesn't surprise me. They're limited with their options, and if you have that vice tugging at you, I mean, addiction's a real thing for sure.
Right.
I feel very fortunate that I don't feel like I've ever had or have an addictive personality. I can go out and booze with my friends, and then one time I was like, I'm not going to drink for a while. And 2 years later, I had another drink again. It has never had its hooks into me, but I know that's not the norm for a lot of people. But I can't imagine isolation, both social and physical, is going to be good.
Especially if someone is keen to addiction already, and now they're home with their kids that they're normally traveling for work, and they're home with their wife that maybe they're not so happy with.
Yeah.
And now they can just go sit in the basement at their homemade bar and just pound, shitty alcohol.
What do you think the divorce rate has done over COVID?
God, it has to increase, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but you are.
I'm a medical doctor.
Medical doctor, right? Yeah.
Pediatrician mostly is what I specialize in.
I think it has to have gone up. I mean, my wife hasn't traveled, and I've traveled a little bit, but for us, I mean, we get along really well. So it's been actually this year's. I mean, I hate to say it because it's been a shitty year for a lot of people.
Yeah,
it's been a great break for us.
I think it's okay to say I've really reevaluated the way that I was living my life when it came to how much I was traveling. For one, I did not realize how exhausted I was.
Right.
You know this, for traveling for a living. People who travel for pleasure, it can be very pleasurable. You're going to go awesome places. You don't get to get on an airplane very often.
Right.
You're going to go to a scenic destination or location.
Stay in a hotel.
Killer hotel. It's a novelty because you're like, oh, we're going to go to the buffet or whatever. Oh, I haven't gone to that restaurant. They only have restaurants in this state. If you start doing it professionally, I mean, I was on the road quite a bit, and I didn't realize how much of a drain the check-in line is. Sitting in an airplane. And even if you're in first class, you're in the same metal tube.
Yep.
Sharing everybody's farts.
Yeah, I'm just getting my drinks faster. That's it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the hotels, I have stayed at some of the nicest hotels in the world.
Me too.
And it's like, hey, the thread count's awesome and this bed feels great, but I'm going to be working almost the entire time. By the time that I come back to my room, I'm going to do a face-first dive into the bed, and it could be covered in newspaper as opposed to this Egyptian cotton, and I'm still going to sleep.
I mean, how many times did you go to your hotel room and you go to like 1304 or whatever, and you put your key and you're like, fuck, it doesn't work. Then you go down the front desk, and as you're in the elevator, you're like, ah, shit, that was last night's hotel. I'm on the 11th floor.
Often enough that I started taking a picture of my key when I would check in. And then
same
as
thing.
I would go along, I would delete it.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, because I had that experience. Like, what hotel? First, I've had it where it's like, what hotel am I in?
Yeah.
What?
Or you go
floor
to
am I
you go
on?
to your event and then you're like, get an Uber back to your hotel. The guy's like, where are you going? I'm like,
Give me a second.
give me a minute. I got to use the head real quick.
Go for it. You urinate more than any man that I've ever been around.
This is true.
If you drank less water, you would have to pay. Look at you. You're right back in it.
I know.
Just sucking on that thing like it's your uncle.
Did you learn that in the Navy?
Among many other things. What the hell were we talking about?
The war on drugs. We're losing.
What are your thoughts on legalization? A blanket legalization with a ridiculous tax?
For all drugs?
Yeah, let's just start there. We can work our way backwards.
I don't think so. I don't think it's a good idea. I think the way our country has addiction problems, I personally think if cocaine, heroin, I mean, there's, what is it? Is it Netherlands? I think Netherlands, it's legal.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure one of the countries over there's a certain area you're allowed to do heroin, and I just can't imagine that working for us.
Well, people are already doing it, so the legality of it isn't stopping them. And before we even talk, like, I'm no expert in this either,
Yeah.
so I'm just spitballing. But
Yeah.
you know, whether or not it's illegal, which is
Right.
not stopping people, would it
Make more sense to make them.
would it make more sense? Would it remove burden off of law enforcement? Would it? I mean, I don't know what percentage of law enforcement is in dealing with that aspect of the job.
I guess think about it as like legalization of marijuana, which I think that marijuana should be legal.
And I think we're a few years from that probably being countrywide.
Right. But if you think about that, like how many people are still buying weed from their buddy who grows it that doesn't have a legal grow house?
I
Right?
have no idea.
I'm guessing a lot, right?
You think because of convenience or price?
I think for convenience and price.
Okay.
And so then what you're doing is you're having a illegal grow that's not paying taxes. So then, so you're still having basically black market alcohol, but it's black market weed, right? So now the black market trade is bringing in dangers that probably don't need to happen. So I think if you're going to legalize it, you need to legalize it and then really make sure that it's done properly. And I think Colorado, I don't know statistically, but I feel like Colorado did a good job on it. They raised a bunch of money for their state. But again, I don't have real numbers on that. I got some
Yeah, I
friends
don't
that
either.
live in Colorado and they're like, oh yeah, I just go to the pot shop and pick up my weed and it's that easy.
That's what I've heard as well.
I mean, how's Montana?
Montana is medicinal purposes legal, and I believe it is again on the ballot for across the board. So
Right.
what are they called? Medicinal and recreational.
Right.
So like California, where I'm from, I think flipped to recreational, which basically is no holds barred.
Right.
But I believe they started at medicinal for. I think that seems to be the trend. Is
Right.
It will get approved at a medicinal level, and then it will get approved as a recreational. So I think we're in the step between those two.
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot more as a society of the benefits of marijuana as opposed to before when everyone said it was so bad for you. And I don't know if that was the government wanting us not to know that there's some benefits of THC or CBD.
Yep.
I get them all confused. But I know in Indiana, where I reside most of the time, you'll go to jail.
Really?
Yeah, it's illegal. Yeah.
Completely no medicinal usage.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think at one point they had CBD in the shops, like just in shops in general, and then they stopped that, and now it's legal to have CBD. Now.
I was going to say, if they did that, that's a misunderstanding. I mean, and by no means.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in any of this.
I'm not, but I tell you what, I use CBD, and it is beneficial for
Right.
me. It with, I guess I was going to say stress management, but I guess that could be also talked about in terms of just anxiety.
Right.
But doing jujitsu and getting banged up, there's
Yeah.
some creams, and I guess it was Solve, if that's how you say that. Holy shit, it works so good.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not
Yeah.
psychotropic. Like there's nothing.
There's
in there.
there's no chemical in it that's
There's
going to
no-
alter your mind.
Yeah, so for them to just blanketly remove that, especially coming from the world that
Yeah.
did you ever get an 800 milligram Motrin while you were in the Coast Guard? Yeah.
In jugs.
Fucking tub of it.
In jugs.
Like,
I've never
I-
seen prescription bottles, or not prescription. They just give them to you in jugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I stubbed my toe. Here is a 1 gallon Ziploc bag of 800 milligram Motrin.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it then. It always upset my stomach. I try to avoid ingesting that type of stuff.
It's a horse pill.
It is a horse pill, and you better take it with some milk, otherwise your stomach is going to digest itself.
But I guess going back to the original question about, like, I'll just say I'll separate it by drugs in general, because marijuana is legal in many states. So I'll just say the rest of the drugs. I don't know. I think it would be a bad thing, and it's not because I'm so anti-drugs or anti that you shouldn't. I don't see the reason why you should be sticking cocaine up your nose. I guess
Some people like the smell.
Yeah, shop vac.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know either, but at the same time, if they want to ruin their life and spend their life savings on that, is it the government's place to stop them? Or should they tax it?
Right.
And, remove that I don't have the answer to this, people. I'm just talking out loud. I don't know where the reasonable and responsible answer on that lies.
Yeah, I think then all the TACLIT guys, the lead-it guys, would then have to transfer over to MSRT and then just go after terrorist. But I guess that's not a bad thing.
I don't think going after terrorists is ever a bad thing.
No, just add more people going after terrorists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you get into public speaking?
I think in my industry, in the chimney industry, it just happened. And then it kind of evolved from that.
Do you remember your first one?
I do. It was in North Carolina.
How'd it go in comparison to how they go now?
I killed it. I'm fortunate enough that I talk about every time I'm on stage, I'm talking about my story or business that I'm familiar with. So I'm not, when someone wants me to come and talk about a topic that's not my forte, I'm not saying I'll turn it down, but I've got to do a lot more homework on it. And
I'm very clear with mine too. It's my wheelhouse would be leadership, teamwork, communication.
100%. That's it. Yeah. I talk about core values, obviously, because that comes into it. But typically, I'd prefer to talk to business people or people that want to go into business. And again, that's kind of why I wrote the book, because I think there's a lot of benefits. If you read back to Bulletproof, see how I plugged that in there.
Yeah. Well played.
Thank you. So I think if you read that, you'll get a lot of, I don't want to say tips and tricks, but that's what it is, of things that really you should be doing in your business. Having standard operating procedures, SOPs, having core values, having people that are on the bus that are moving in the same direction that you want your business to go.
How much of that came, the knowledge that you're passing along, how much of that came from your military service?
Geez, I'm going to say most of it. Yeah, I'm going to say most of it, at least things not to do or to do.
Yeah.
Because there was things in the military that I was like, I would never do that if I was a civilian.
Oh, the military is not perfect.
No.
And that's actually a mistake I see organizations make sometimes. They go, oh, we're going to do it like the military. And my response is, whoa,
slow down.
whoa.
Yeah.
Because the military, what works for the military does not mean it's going to work 100% for people outside of the military.
Right.
And I also oftentimes recommend, if not always, I don't want to see an organization become militarized.
Right.
It doesn't work. You have a different community of people. You have a different pool of people.
Right.
The backgrounds might be equally diverse, but let's remember people serving in the military, they kind of volunteered for an additional level, signed some paperwork, gave up some rights.
Right.
So therefore, there are different tools available. Try that in the civilian world and enjoy civil court.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. I think a lot of people in my specific industry, in the chimney and venting industry, I think my competition probably thinks that we run our company very militant because they really don't know what we're doing on the inside. But the truth is I've taken a lot of principles that I've learned in the military and then I've applied them into the civilian world, but at a civilian level.
Were they written down doctrine, or was it OJT, on the job experience, that left a mark and you were able to refine that and put it out on paper?
Number two.
Same for me. I was thinking about
hands
this.
Down.
There's very little read this book, FM 1 TAC 1 leadership. Like a lot of that stuff didn't stick with me, but the concrete examples of leadership in the moment, setting the example, effective communication. And for everything that I just listed, I saw amazing examples of it working positively.
Right.
But those aren't the ones that stuck with me the most. The ones that stuck with me the most were the catastrophes in each one of those. And it was more for me of literally finding a piece of paper, and I've always had notebooks. It's just fucking 3 on the table. Like, do not do this.
My dad used to say, short pencil is better than a long memory.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's real.
I believe it was Einstein that said, why try to remember something that you can write down?
Oh.
He was okay IQ-wise. I have no idea if that was said by Einstein.
Yeah. But I like it.
I think it was.
But, it's interesting for you because you were not in the, and I'll call it the regular Navy.
I didn't have a traditional job inside of the Navy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to put it. And then, so in the Coast Guard, I was on a 270, which is a cutter doing
270 mean 270
yeah,
feet?
I'm sorry, 270 feet. And a cutter, it's what the Coast Guard calls a ship. But and relative to the Navy, it's still it's a small boat, but not a small boat in the Coast Guard.
Size matters. It's no big deal.
It's no big deal. Yeah. But since then, we've got bigger boats. And I say we, but I've been out of the Coast Guard for years. But
I don't have any aircraft carriers, so you can take your little trump card and shove it up your ass.
Yes, right. But we can do things you can't do.
It's not true.
Yes.
We can do everything that you do slightly better.
Oh, okay. Someone asked me, how'd you get in the Coast Guard? You're not 6 feet tall. And I go, that's not a requirement. They're like, well, when your boat runs aground, how do you walk to shore? It's like, oh, that's fucking good. That's fucking good.
Yeah, that is good.
I like that one. And then God created the Coast Guard to take care of the Navy wives while they're underway.
That's fair.
Yeah. I had a whole bunch of them now.
Yeah.
I didn't before I started speaking, but people always come to the bar and they're like, hey, have you heard this one? I was like,
yeah,
that's a punch you in the face.
Yeah, we'll deal with you afterwards on this one.
Yeah. But so I think if you go, there's each military branch, Air Force, well, I guess now Space Force, which I know zero about.
Is that actually a thing? Like, do they have Space Force personnel members, or is it just?
No, that's real. Yeah, it started January 1st this year. A bunch of, I believe they lateraled over people from the Air Force, from my understanding.
There are a few topics that I know less about than Space Force.
I know zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I just told you is that's it. So on the regular rest of the military that I'm familiar with, the Air Force, Coast Guard, Navy, and the Army and the Marine Corps, there's so many different jobs in all of these branches that people just don't know what they do or what they're about. But it's interesting that, I think I would mention this yesterday. Like, you go into a bar and someone's like, oh, you were in the military. You're like, yeah, I was in the Navy. And you probably leave it at that for a minute. And then like,
I don't even say that if I can avoid it.
But if they recognize something, maybe like, I don't know.
I start with, I was in the military.
Yeah, that's what I always say. I was in the military.
And they'll say, what did you do? And I'll say, I was in the Navy. Yeah. And what I'm trying to do is just move on to the next.
Yeah, de-escalate the questions.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to you saying, I was a Navy SEAL, or a Navy SEAL saying that, everyone's answer, they're like, oh, wow, that's awesome. That's super cool. Or they're like, oh, did you ever kill anyone? Everyone's got their own question for you. But when I say I'm in the Coast Guard, they're like, oh, Coast Guard. They're like, what'd you do? I go, I did search and rescue. Then I was on a drug task force team. It's a easier way to put it. Like, huh, okay. And that's the look I get. I'm like, yeah.
I just don't think a lot of people know about it.
I knew a guy in the Coast Guard. It was my uncle's cousin's friend, and yeah, he was high up, I think. His name's Bob Johnson. Do you know him? I don't know that fucking guy. It's a small service, but I don't know everyone.
Yeah. I really do think that not many people know a lot about it. And I think it's a true disservice, because even myself, I didn't realize the breadth and depth of the involvement at a global perspective, not just, the rotary wing range of those search and rescue helicopters. But I tell you what, man, shout out to those guys. Those guys have got balls of steel.
The aviation guys and the rescue swimmer, the guy who jumps out of the helicopter.
Oh, yeah.
My boot camp company commander, or you guys call them company commanders or drill instructor? Tomato.
It's been a long time. Company commander, I think.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the Navy and the Coast Guard
pretty similar.
The same. Yeah. So my company commander was a aviational survival swimmer, which I think they've changed that name. The guy who jumps
that
out of
acronym would be ASS, by the way.
Yes. But
they better have changed it.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. But
what do you do in the Coast Guard? I'm an ass.
I'm an ass.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and modify that.
But those guys are badass. Is my point. And I remember doing one of the swim evolutions in boot camp. We swam a lot, and he said, "You're a good swimmer." I was like, "Well, I don't want to fucking drown. I'm trying to beat everyone in the class." And he's like, "You should be a ASM, maybe is what it was called. Doesn't matter. You should be an aviational survival swimmer." I was like, "Oh, how do I do that?" And he goes, "Well, put your name on an A school list." And right now it's all locked up. They're probably going to open it up in like 3.5 years.
We'll just put you on the short line. Like, no thanks.
Yeah,
on to the next.
You want me to be a non-rate for 3.5 years on doing what? What am I going to be doing?
Ooh, for people listening, a non-rate would be somebody who just does what you're told. You're going to be chipping paint. You're going to be doing. It's not a place. You have no job specialty, so therefore you do all of the menial tasks.
Yeah, it's what you do before. If you don't have an assigned A school, it's what you do before you make a decision to go to A school. or pick an A school. But unfortunately, I think in the military, especially the Coast Guard, I think people end up making the wrong career choice in the Coast Guard because they're like, I don't want to wait for the job that I want to do. Which
Yeah,
I
it's
think
tough.
It is tough. And I think, because like you mentioned yesterday, Navy SEAL, BUDS is now an A school.
It is.
So
A school is an occupational school for people listening. It's when I went in, I went to OS A school, which was Operations Specialist A school. It was a radar scope operator that I actually don't know what the A stands for, but maybe it's just your primary occupation. And then I went to BUD. So I would have a job that I could do if I had attrited through the program, which statistically most people do, which is why they make you do that before. Now BUDS is an A school, and I actually don't know what they do with guys who don't make it through.
I wonder if they let them leave.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think you're going to get off that easy.
Yeah.
Uncle Sam's going to get their pound of flesh first.
Yeah.
Plenty of opportunity for people to get their pound of flesh from the government, but it'll be second.
Right.
And just know that going into it.
Yeah, so the Coast Guard changed too, and I don't remember what year it was. I think I said 2005, could be 2008. So the rating is ME now, Maritime Enforcement Specialist.
Yep.
So that's how you get in the pipeline. So you go to your A school, and then from A school, if you're going to go in to tackle it, then you do, I think, 6 months of boarding officer school or boarding officer training, and then you do tactical operation in Camp Lejeune. I think it's what it's called, tactical something. And then from there, you go to your unit. You get assigned to a unit. And then after you're at your unit, you have, I think, 7 weeks of green team, which is the beginning to make sure you've dialed in all your shit. And then you get put on a team. Then you deploy. And then from the time you started and the time that you deploy in that 2-year period, if you don't fuck anything up, that's how you get your insignia.
Probationary period.
Yeah, I don't think they call it that, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So you're just the new guy, and it's not like you're sweeping floors. You're just, in your gear locker, you're just going to get picked on more. But
and you have more oversight and scrutiny. People are looking at you because past that point, you're going to become that member of the team that is looking at other people.
Yeah,
and there's a time and place for that.
And then the MSRT guys, and I'm probably saying some of this a little bit off, but the MSRT guys, which is the guys that do the counterterrorism and biological warfare or something or another. They've got more training, obviously, because they've got to train on that stuff. And they deploy all over the world. So they're a mobile unit that the boats go with them. They get put in these Connex boxes, and they deploy to Africa or wherever they're going to go and do whatever the operation is. Yeah, and that's the Coast Guard people. Like, random. And then there's also people in the Coast Guard that are making sure the aids to navigation, which are the buoys in the water, are specifically in the spot they're supposed to be as per the chart that's on your computer, so you don't run your fucking boat aground and then have to call the Coast Guard.
Which is traditionally a good idea, to not run your boat aground.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. How much of a difference do you think it made in your business life, taking those lessons learned from the military and applying them properly?
I think 100%. I wouldn't even say like 75%. I think 100%. And I say that because I see other businesses that I coach.
Well, that was going to be my question. How many, is that your goal, is to take that knowledge and experience and pass it forward and to hopefully get other people to apply it as well?
Yeah.
When publicly speaking.
Yeah. Ideally, I like to see results. So when I can talk in front of a room or sit down with a business owner or someone who's interested in going to business, if I can help them hit their goals, then that makes me happy. And I think we talked about it. It's like teaching. I would never say that I'm a teacher, but after talking yesterday loosely, I feel like that's
what you're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing, and I enjoy it. I love my manufacturing industry. I love the guys that I work with and the girls I work with. I have about 300 employees with National Chimney, Natural Light Energy System, and Kennedy Skylights. I've got an awesome vice president, Evan Havers. My business partner, Marty Fuller, is a fucking rock star who also went to the Coast Guard Academy, but he stopped after the academy.
We talked about that earlier. Yeah. So you get this sweetheart deal. He went to a military academy, but then owed the government zero
money, and then went on
in
got
no
a
time.
master's in I don't remember, somewhere in Washington or in Maryland, but yeah. So he's got all the credentials of education, and super intelligent guy and a good dude. He's a good mentor to me.
That was one of the things that I think helped when I was figuring out what I wanted to do speaking. I think that some people, and I have no idea what percentage, view it as entertainment and not education. And both, I think, actually have a place, because I'm sure you've been to places where somebody comes up and they're awesome, but you realize at the end of it, it was kind of like a comedy show.
The guy that talked in front of you before you in Dallas.
Yes.
I won't say his name.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I was sitting there, I was just like, because I caught about the tail half of it. I was like, okay.
You caught enough.
I did catch enough, but that's not uncommon to see that. And
it's just not my style.
It's not my style, and I don't know if he left people with anything practical that they could use going forward in that moment.
Right.
which they were engaged though.
Right.
They were laughing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Entertained
For sure, but that's not going to make a difference in your business. You're not going to take entertainment from a meeting or an event back to whatever business that sent you to that event.
Right.
And entertain your people. You need to empower them and educate them. And that for me, realizing, oh, I don't have to be up here. I'm not putting on a song and dance. What I'm trying to do is just take lessons learned that transcend any business sector and pass them forward.
Right.
Just like the generation before me taught me and the generation before them taught them. And it made a huge difference for me.
And that event that I'm talking about, it was in Dallas, Warrior Leadership Conference, but all the money that we get for that goes to Warrior Horse, which is an organization out of Louisiana that this amazing, good-hearted guy named Kevin started. And you guys should look it up. It's Warrior Horse.
Is it like equine therapy type stuff?
Yes. And I've
actually heard great things about that and know nothing about it.
It's to help people with post-traumatic stress disorder and TBI, traumatic brain injury. But anyway, my point is, when you were there, because it was a thank you for filling in, because it was
of course.
Last minute.
Oh, it was last minute. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was super last minute because the original guy that came, and we were trying to get specific types of people there, and I knew what I was looking for.
The guy you were supposed to have was a SEAL though too, correct?
Yeah, he was. And that's why, and I talked to you like the year before, and you're like, yeah, I can come. And this was a year before, and something happened and we didn't have you there. And then that time I was like, man, I need a favor. Yeah. And then we communicate back and forth, and you're like, you know what, I'll make a loop and I'll do it. And you helped us out.
Yeah, because I was on the road from somewhere else, I think.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it. But my point is, out of all the speakers that we had, every single person, because most of these people are my customers to some degree, came up to me after and were like, this guy, Andy, I learned so much. And besides, they were like, oh, he's a badass. Like, I love hearing all that. But the bullet points or the nuggets that they got from your, 45 minutes to an hour speech was better than all of the other speakers. And we had good speakers there. Yeah. But just a different type of sharing. So publicly, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean,
you killed it. Anyone who wants to hire him, you need to write a check and do it immediately.
That's a super awkward statement. It just became an infomercial somehow.
I made that up, by the way. He did not tell me to do it. I mean, you can hire me too. No.
Yeah.
No, it was, but no, seriously. And it was for a good cause. So helping veterans. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of good stuff about the equine therapy. I just don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I don't either, except I got to see where where we raised money at another event to build the actual horse stadium, I think they call it.
Stables?
No, perhaps? Where they kind of walk the horses around inside.
Oh, God, pen? The horse pen? Yeah, I don't know, people. Man. Yeah. You go research it on your own.
Yeah, Google it. Yeah. But Warrior Horse. It's a great organization. And Kevin's, it was his dream and it's his passion. It's a badass. So, yeah.
So with the businesses, the speaking that you've done and the interfacing with businesses, can you put your finger on a few of the similarities that you see people making mistakes on or shortfalls that they need to correct?
Yeah, they're not following core values. That's the biggest one. They don't have standard operating procedures. They're winging it. And they're small. They start off small, so they don't think they need it. Yeah. And as they continue to grow, they all of a sudden they're not as efficient as they could be. They're still making enough money where they don't think they need to make the changes. And then they either continue to grow or they stay in this stagnant. But they're like, they don't really realize they need help because they're like, yeah, I'm making money. They don't understand they can make a lot more money. And I don't tell people you need to grow your business, but you should always try to get more efficient. So if you're a 2-man operation or a 3-man operation in a service industry, that doesn't mean you have to try to grow for 4 trucks, 5 trucks, 6 trucks. Try to get more efficient so you can be more profitable, and then you have more money, and that gives you more free time.
Yeah, I can't argue against that. Speaking of why we're here again today for the second time, SOP, test the fucking equipment.
Six P's, baby, God, 6 P's.
I literally will create, I'm going to have to write out something that I go through every time. For me, it's almost always a workflow issue or a time management issue. When I fall short, it's just me being a dumbass doing whatever I wanted to as opposed to what I should have been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like instead of cutting corners, just do it right the first time.
It's amazing how that works.
Yeah.
And actually, that's a conversation I've had with both of my sons. It's always quicker to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to do it multiple times because you're doing it wrong over and over and over again.
Yeah, and stop making fucking excuses.
Some excuses are fun to make.
Yeah, but people are good. People put more energy in making excuse than just fucking doing it. Yeah. Take responsibility. If you made a mistake, hey, listen, I made a shit ton of them. a shit ton of them, and you learn from them, or you try not to make them again. And when you make them again, you're like, fuck, I remember I fucked this up before. I need to.
Yeah, my goal will be to not repeat the mistake of detonating the podcast audio, which is tough to recover from. You have a flight at some point here.
Yes, I do.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on social media, Instagram, Darren Babeau, Bibeau.
Yeah, not
just
spelled like it sounds.
Just like it sounds. And Facebook. And then I have a webpage, darrenbabeau.com.
And your book?
Back to Bulletproof, A Warrior's Tactical Guide to Success. You can find it on Amazon. And I did the audio version, which was painful. And we won't talk about that again because, trust me, it was painful. But it's good. So you have the hard copy and the audio on Amazon. And any everyday GSD gear, if you want, you can get it at my website, darrenbabeau.com.
Closing thoughts.
Thank you for having me the second time.
Of course.
Hopefully people got some tips and tricks out of this and are at least humored.
Cool. Right on, man.
Thanks, man.